Hey everybody, Sharran Srivatsaa. I am super excited today to bring you not just a leader, but a leader who has touched my life in so many amazing ways. My friend, my mentor, Bedros Keuilian. Bedros, thank you for being on.
Sharran, thank you for the opportunity. And you are my friend, you are my brother, and you are a mentor that I learned from. So I appreciate this opportunity.
Bedros, I was looking over our stuff, a lot of the stuff that you've taught me kind of over the last couple of years. And the first thing that came to mind when I was looking through Instagram and your recent feed from yesterday was all this amazing stuff on the recent accomplishments, the building of your empire, the recent recognition in the Inc. 500 of one of the fastest growing franchises in the world. You're an advisor to many multimillionaires that you won't talk about because that's the kind of person you are. You're an investor in so many companies, and you are kind of this definition of what success is all about. But you know, and I both know, I know the story. It didn't start that way.
No, it didn't.
It didn't start that way. For the 4 people in my world who have never, who like not logged into Facebook, Instagram, read my messages, or seen you in the last couple of years, I would love kind of your story, the immigrant story of your early years, because I think that's going to set the stage really well.
Sure. Well, you know what? Just like you, I'm an immigrant to the United States. And just like you, I'm also the American dream. And so we can both say we're the immigrant edge and the American dream. Now, in my case, we had to escape communist Soviet Union, and my father risked his life. And I was 6 years old. It was my father, mother, brother, and sister. There were, obviously brother and sister are all older than me. I was just 6 years old. And when we made the escape, my dad was willing to risk his life to bring us to freedom and opportunity. Now, when we came to the United States, of course, we had no money. We didn't speak the language, and we didn't understand the culture. And so the next several years, Sharran, to say we're challenging would be an understatement. I've eaten out of garbage cans. When I lived in Section 8 housing, and then I got lice, my mom had my dad siphon out gasoline from a parked car to wash my hair with gasoline because we couldn't afford lice treatments. And, we've been yelled at, go back to your own effing country, you foreigner, you're taking all of our jobs. You've probably experienced something similar. And the truth of the matter is, I grew up with a chip on my shoulder and with a very bad mind-money association. Like, I believe money was for Americans, money was for the white collar, money was for educated people, and I'm a foreigner, blue collar, uneducated. However, what I later realized was that money comes to people who are value adders, who are problem solvers, and people who don't quit and stay positive and avoid the negativity. And so little did I know that my immigrant experience, things like when we couldn't afford food, we had to go dumpster diving, or when we couldn't afford lice treatment, we had to, siphon out gasoline to wash my hair. That was called resourcefulness. Well, and I know as an entrepreneur, you have to get resourceful when Facebook doesn't want to run your ads, but you want Facebook to run your ads. You have to get creative and resourceful to make things happen. When you come to a country, you're an immigrant, you face a lot of adversity. What I didn't realize is, just like going to the gym and working out, when you work out, you build muscles. Turns out when you face a lot of adversity in your life, you're also building your emotional muscles, your ability to tolerate the suck factor that's bound to come as an entrepreneur. So all of my immigrant training helped me become a better entrepreneur. And today I'm just blessed to be the American dream and have this empire that we've been able to build. And I stand on the shoulders of giants like you.
Thank you. The interesting part is, the first time we got to spend that extended period of time together, we were fortunate to be on a cool little plane, go into a mastermind. It was a treat that you and I gave to ourselves and our friends, right?
Right.
And you changed my perspective on the words immigrant edge and American dream. I wore that very similar to you. I wore that as I wouldn't say a badge of shame, but I wore that as I am a second-class citizen. I always will be. And my biggest shift, Bedros, was when you told me the story that you just shared in a much richer detail. It made me a better person instantly, because it became something, it opened up my heart. It became something that I could actually be proud of. It became something to actually be grateful for. It became something that I am an immigrant too, and the adversity quotient was something that I didn't really give credence to. And that was a big kind of transformational minute or two for me. I was listening to you and my mind was racing saying, wow, like I was living in this, I'm a second-class citizen mindset, whereas this country's given me so much as well. And I need to respect that, be grateful for that. So,
sure.
It was amazing that you went into so I sat down yesterday, really looking forward to time with you. And I wrote down 7 lessons that I've learned from Bedros Keuilian, right? And I didn't want everyone's heard a lot of your great stories because you've been in the magazines, on podcasts, in interviews, on the impact theory. But I wanted to kind of bring it from my perspective, like the lessons that I've learned that have impacted my life, that I've put and installed into my business and into my life that have made me a better person already, right? And I wanted to come from that. The first thing was, you hit it already, the American edge, the immigrant edge, the American dream. The second thing, you told me this, and I've changed my filter on life. I mean, you talked to me about the 4 most important things in life. And you said, hey, Sharran, always like use this as a filter, as a guiding path, as a guiding decision. I'd love for you to kind of talk about simplifying those 4 important things.
Yeah. So those 4 important things, by the way, go for everybody, no matter what industry they're in. And because when you ask people, what do you want out of life? They'll first say money. And they might say, you ask someone who's out of shape, they'll say, I want to lose weight, right? And I want to get healthy, and I want to have a home, and I want to go on vacation. But you keep asking why, and ultimately they're going to say, because it will make me happy. You want money because it'll give you a sense of security. Why? Because you can take your family, you can feed your family, have a roof over their head. Why? So that ultimately it'll make you happy to know that you're taking care of your tribe. Well, since happiness is the core of why we exist, we want to be happy, we want to provide happiness. I figured out, accidentally actually, that there are actually 4 pillars, and only 4 pillars, that lead to happiness. And those 4 pillars are money, meaning, relationships, and health. And here's what I mean. Now, we all need money. There's no way we can't live without money, because money solves the problem of not having money. And this world, I don't know about any other world, but this world lives off money, right? And so, but building money alone isn't enough, because inside of every human soul, there's spirit. We're very much like the Australian shepherd. We need meaning. We need purpose. And the Australian shepherd is literally designed to herd animals. And when it does not have any animals to herd, in the absence of animals to herd, the Australian shepherd begins to get anxious and irritable and depressed and starts digging holes everywhere, Sharran, because it has nothing else to do. And so I start thinking, and I've fallen victim to this, when I made money, but I had no significance or meaning, I was digging holes in my life. I was getting into trouble. I was causing problems. And so I realized I better use my money, a part of it, for a sense of significance or meaning. So money and meaning are 2 things that lead to happiness. But you also need relationships. In other words, if you have no one to share your money and your experience and your significance with, where you can go home and tell your wife and kids, or tell your tribe or your fellow real estate agents that, this is the impact we're making, or we're doing this together, and it's a contribution of the majority. Without relationships, humans need to connect. And without that, we are islands. And as an island, we again begin to erode and go into depression and anxiety. So relationships are important on every level, from parents to marriage to children, and of course, colleagues. And finally, there's the health component. You can have all the money you want, you can have all the significance you want, but if your health is deteriorating because you're simply not taking care of yourself, you're going to live a life that's going to be shorter than expected, which means you'll make less impact and less income, and you'll have less relationships to connect with. And so once you have those 4 pillars together, money, meaning, relationships, and health, that really is the formula, if you will, for happiness. And it's a fine balance. I don't know of any one person who's got the balance figured out, but I think our mission in life as we go through and live these 100 years that we're given or so is to constantly try and balance those 4 things, and then pass it along to the younger generation, to our children.
So Bedros, so let's ask a very tactical question, because you've coached a lot of people on this. I am the listener right now. I'm struggling in my 9-to-5, or I have started a business. I'm not seeing a lot of growth. Do you advise on a certain order of the 4? Is there a way to think about one pillar before the other that actually gives you a chance to have that domino effect?
Believe it or not, there is. And I always say this. I go, focus on your health. I always go back to health. Here's why. Listen, if you're starting a business or you're thinking of starting a business or you started a business, but it's struggling, it's not working out, there might be things outside of your control that you can't impact right now. That means your relationship. So that means your money's affected. That means your relationship at home might be a little rocky because maybe you're coming home and the spouse is saying, what's going on with the money? Why don't you go get a day job? How come your business isn't taking off? Is it your fault, the partner's fault? Is it the bad marketing that you're doing? So maybe you can't control that element either. But what you really can control, and without the money, you probably can't have a lot of meaning and significance. Like, we donate to Shriners and Compassion International and Toys for Tots. Without money, I couldn't help those causes. And so what is in one area you can take control? And I always tell people, take control of something and get a win. Because when you get a win, you can stack the wins on top of one another and build your confidence. When you build your confidence, how you do any one thing will bleed into everything. So go to the gym, work out, adjust your eating habits, sleep sooner, wake up at the same time. Don't hit the snooze button. Control the things you can. Those are typically in the circle of health. And when you start taking control there, you build your confidence. And we all know every statistical science, it's statistically proven, science proven, that when you work out, when you're active, when you're eating lower carbs, lower sugar, higher protein, more veggie, fibrous foods, guess what? You're also experiencing dopamine hit. You're having cortisol decrease, stress hormone decrease. You're sleeping better. Your mood is more stable. So if all of a sudden you have some sense of control over one area in your life, don't you think that the other dominoes will start falling? They absolutely will, because all of a sudden you have more happy hormones pumping through your head. You get more creative, and that business all of a sudden starts taking off. The business takes off, it starts making money. You start contributing to the causes that have meaning to you. You start making money and have meaning. Well, guess what? The spouse is going to be a lot nicer, sweeter, gentler with you. And so there is a domino effect, and it does start with health, which is the component that you can take control of.
So I love that you said that, because the high achiever, the entrepreneur that's listening right now, if there's anything that they sacrifice, that is the one thing that's being sacrificed right now.
Yeah, and sleep and diet and workout, they sacrifice all that.
Yeah, so you're and you're saying stack that first. So I really wanted to get that in, because you had an awesome explanation for that. You talked about kids, and this goes to my my third lesson, which is, and I know you know this. So we have this saying at home. So after I got home from the first time we hung out, I have this saying with my son. My son does affirmations. He's only 7 years old, and I love it when he moves his body. So I love it when he moves his body and says yes or no, or we make it kind of a game. So we have this thing, Bedros, and I had told you this before, which is, I asked him, I said, Neil, are you a fighter jet? And he says, yes, right? And I love it because he puts his body into it. He's got the feeling into it, the emotion into it. He may have no idea what I'm talking about, right? And hopefully I can educate him over time. But you have, and no one has explained this better, you have this just very cool distinction of the fighter jet and the crop duster.
Yeah.
And I think it cannot be explained over and over again, because if anyone has taken anything away, just wake up in the morning and just have that. If that doesn't rev you up, I don't know what revs you up. But I'd love for you to tell kind of that distinction and that story.
Absolutely. I believe we all have the ability as humans to become fighter jets. And when you go, whoa, wait a minute, what is a fighter jet versus a crop duster? Well, the fighter jet is a person who has high expectations of him or herself. They have high standards for others as well around them. They keep promises they make to themselves. And what I mean by that is they go, I'm going to set my alarm and wake up when it goes off and not hit snooze. They keep the promise they make to themselves. And guess what? Before keeping any promise to anyone else, you got to be able to keep a promise to yourself. And promises that you keep to yourself are the foundation of building self-confidence. And so a fighter jet is someone who's a high performer, peak performer, has high standards and expectations of self and others, and keeps promises to themselves, and will fight and go until they win. A crop duster is someone who has accepted mediocrity. They're okay with average. Now, the ironic thing is, if you would never hear a parent say, well, I want little, okay, let's use Neil, your son Neil, because Neil is how old? Is he 7?
7, yeah.
He's 7 years old. Sharran, I know you well enough that you and your wife would never say, I want Neil to grow up and be of average health, of average height, of average education, get an average job, marry an average wife, have average children, and die of an average life. That you would never say that. We want extraordinary things for our children. However, we neuter them, and we teach them to be average by killing their curiosity. When they want to explore, we say, no, don't do that. That's dangerous. Don't touch that. That's wrong. No, don't go there. No, don't be so loud. And before you know it, they're hearing so many no's, and they're being so stifled and bubble wrapped, and they become average, and they become more of a crop duster. They lose their claws and fangs, is what I say. We are hunters. We are meant to evolve. We are meant to hunt. We are meant to pursue, and we are predatory. By predatory, I mean we are, Elon Musk is sending a Tesla to Mars right now. Like, it blows me away. Like, there's a guy who's cracking the code, right, and using more of his brain than the rest of us are. And so the fighter jet mentality is what we have to get back. And when we accept higher standards, when we set higher standards, and we keep the promises to ourselves, and we play to win and not just to accept mediocrity, then life all of a sudden opens up for us. When we choose mediocrity and to be average, then guess what? We kind of fall in line with the average living, which is someone who's constantly in debt, depressed, anxious, and unfortunately irritable with their life and their relationship and their health.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing that you touched on leads right into kind of my next lesson from you. And you talked to me about the story where you said to me, hey, the first and most important thing about being this fighter jet is to fix your mornings.
Yes.
And you were not originally kind of self-labeled as a morning person. And I know the listener that's listening, the high achiever, the entrepreneur right now, saying, hey, you know what? I like being awake at night. No one bothers me. No emails are coming in. I want to bust out some work. And then I'll watch some Netflix till 2 a.m. I get up when I get up, and hopefully I have made up for it the night before. But there's something magical about the mornings that you found.
Yes.
Which went to the heart of, like, just for you seeing insane success. I'd love for you to talk about that.
Yeah, and we have to give full credit where credit is due. My intense and very structured morning rituals are a byproduct of our dear friend Craig Ballantyne, right? And before he ever wrote his book, The Perfect Day Formula, I was the human guinea pig for the Perfect Day Formula. While he was writing the book, I was the guy laughing at him because we're business partners. I said, Craig, what do you mean you want to have dinner at 5 o'clock? That's a late lunch for me. He goes, so I can go to bed by 8:30, 9 p.m. Well, why would you go to bed at 8:30, 9 p.m.? That's dinner time. He goes, so I could wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning and what he called his magic time. And I said, magic time, what's that? He goes, that's when I get the most important things done so that I can move my business forward before the rest of the world wakes up and interrupts me. And I said, oh, I just do that late at night, or I carve out time in the middle of the day. What I was really saying is, I see, you would never say it this way, I steal time from my family, from my wife and kids to do that. I steal time from my health. Would I ever say it that way? No, I say I carve out time, or I do it late at night. Well, I do it late at night because my wife is sleeping and I'm typing, right? I do it late at night, or I'm carving out time because my daughter's talking, but I'm in my iPhone. And so when I used to laugh at Craig, that laughter turned into amazement when I saw how much work he was getting done in such a structured fashion. And so I said, Craig, how do I do this? And he said, just wake up half an hour earlier tomorrow morning. And next week, wake up half an hour earlier. Before I know it, I was waking up at 5 a.m. and not 7:30 a.m. And I was using the next 2.5 hours to literally crush the list that I made the night before that I learned from him. And when I would do that, now I can go work out at 9 a.m. instead of in the evenings when I don't like working out because the gyms are packed in the evenings. All of a sudden, my life started to fall in order. And so the guy that used to laugh at a morning routine now has such a structured morning routine that 7 days a week, I wake up at the same time, and you can pretty much set your clock to me no matter where I am in the world.
Yeah. I know that most folks listening also know that I changed my morning routine completely because of my health, and Bedros, I needed some accountability. I was trying to keep a promise to myself. So I got a bunch of friends involved, and so I started this call every morning, and we had 3 people on the call 3 years ago at 5 o'clock at 5 a.m. 3 became 30, became 300, became 2,500. So for those that want to wake up, for those that want to be a fighter jet like Bedros, I have a free resource for you as an accountability. It's called the 5 a.m. Club, 5amclub.net. You get to hear me at 5 in the morning for 5 minutes. It'll wake you up, enough to wake you up, and then you're off to your day because now you can build an anchor around a good habit. And Bedros, most people on the call say this to me, it's not just waking up at 5 in the morning. It's that they feel this energy of 2,500 people all plugging towards the same thing, which gets very powerful, right?
Oh.
growing every day, which is awesome.
And you know what I'm most impressed about with you, by the way, is that you made this promise to yourself, but then you took the next step that most people don't do, is you said, how do I then hold myself accountable? And you asked a friend, if I remember correctly, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you asked a friend, can you call me, or can I call you, right?
Yeah.
And from that one person, now you've got 2,500 people and a structured 5 a.m. call that you do. I'm blown away by that, man. It's just amazing.
Well, it's 7 days a week, so it keeps me up. So I'm up every single day, 7 days a week. Christmas, New Year's, holidays, all day.
I love it.
You're a fighter jet, right? Like, you're a fighter
That's
jet.
it.
You gotta be up. And the greatest thing, Bedros, is waking up on Christmas Eve, waking up on Christmas Day, and now you have time with our kids wake up at 6 a.m. regardless. So now I have time with my family, which is great. So that leads me to one thing that no one talks about this, and you talk about this, and you made it so practical for people, which is why you should never sleep with the TV on. Yeah, and it's so simple, but it's so powerful.
Sure. Well, we all know this. When you're sitting in the car, you're listening to music and you're driving, the same song goes on a few times. If you're on a long road trip, before you know it, that whole weekend, you're whistling that song, aren't you? Because you're not making an attempt to learn the song, the lyrics, the rhythm, but your subconscious mind is picking it up. As it turns out, our subconscious mind is the massive sponge. And if we look at an iceberg, that little tip that sticks out is the conscious mind. Yeah, that controls our habits and belief systems and our actions. But the subconscious mind that's underwater is really what feeds your beliefs, habits, and actions. They're the tip of the iceberg. And so just like the music, if you have the TV on late at night, and if it's the news, most people fall asleep with the TV on, or get ready to go to work with the TV on. And every time I ask them, because I'm a very curious person, and I go, so why do you have the TV on? Well, I just want to hear the traffic and hear the weather for the day. Why don't you look out the window or turn on your iPhone, because now you can get the answer to all that stuff from this thing, right? Like from your iPhone. You don't need that, because really what you're hearing is not just traffic and weather. You're hearing about death, disaster, rape, car accidents, the economy crashing, and your subconscious mind is feeding on all this stuff, on fear, on doubt, on scarcity, on lack of hope. And then all of a sudden your cortisol levels are up, and then you're going to go as an entrepreneur to your business and try and come up with a marketing plan that's going to launch your new product to the stratosphere. That's not going to happen. So really, if you're falling asleep with the TV on because people say, I just need something to keep me, find a better method. Take melatonin, go work out, go on a jog, drink warm milk, figure out something else other than TV, because that TV is brainwashing you with negativity. And then you're waking up living this negative, hopeless, fear-based, scarcity-based life, and then wondering, why are things not working out for me? That's probably why. Wow.
I think just that tactical shift, and it's not even, it's as simple as turning off the knob or switching off. That's it. But I think it's just become it's a habit. It's a crappy habit that we just picked up from we don't know where, and the distraction is feeding the distraction. I have two more, and these last two are my favorite. I never thought about this concept of a team in a very specific way. Like, I always thought about my team. I got to love on my team. I got to hire right to my team. I got to nurture them. I got to build great culture. But you talk about just the difference between an inside team and an outside team. Yes. I'd love for you to kind of paint that picture, because I think that could be the shift for a lot of entrepreneurs.
Oh, this was a massive shift for me when I figured this out. I realized at some point that I had employees. When my business was failing, I realized I had employees. I didn't have a team. And my employees were clocking in a little late, clocking out a little early. We're doing the bare minimum to maintain employment. And I had a very adversarial, passive-aggressive relationship with them. And I realized it was my fault. I was a poor leader. Later, as I decided to actually step up into my leadership role and build a team around me, because I realized, wait a minute, I'm the team captain. I've got this idea, and if they're saying they want a job with me and I'm going to pay them for their time, they're really saying they want to play on this team. I started looking at it. I'm the team captain. They've agreed to play on the team. So let me be clear on their vision, and let me get people who are fighter jets, who are high performers, and who are willing to go above and beyond and not just do the minimum. And so, but I realized very quickly that my team at work is great. They're helping us move the needle where money is concerned, and they were getting on the Inc. 5000 list and 500 list and et cetera. but I realized I still had distractions outside. And the way this happened to me, Sharran, I got to tell you this story to really drive this point home, is I was on a cruise to Alaska with my wife. And it's not that we could afford the cruise. It's just that her grandparents purchased a cruise for us. And thank God they did, because I was broke. And so we're on this family cruise. And of course, I'm meeting her family for the first time and I'm nervous. But we go to Ketchikan, Alaska. I'm walking along the water with my wife and I see an older gentleman casting out a net and pulling it in after a few moments. And sometimes it's empty. Sometimes he has some crabs on it. And he has a 5-gallon bucket next to him with a little bit of water in it. And then, of course, there's like 6 or 7 crabs at the bottom of the bucket. And as I'm looking down at his 5-gallon bucket, there's this one ambitious crab that's crawling on top of all the other crabs. And then it soon starts reaching for the rim of that bucket, and it's starting to pull itself up. And so I told the man, I said, "Sir, your crab is about to make a getaway here. You might want to put that lid on." Without even turning around, he said, "Watch what happens next." And all of a sudden, as this crab is trying to free himself, because he's ambitious, he's driven, obviously, all the other crabs from the bottom of the bucket reach up and grab it by its hind leg and pull it right down, Sharran. And in that moment, I realized, oh my gosh, I've got crabs around me. I was able to fix my work situation, and I've got very capable fighter jet team members, but I still have crop dusters or crabs, my outside team. So the inside team is the people that you work with and who work for you. The outside team is the people who are your friends, could be family members, could be someone you're in a relationship with, could be siblings. And the unfortunate thing is, if they are impacting you in a negative way, in a pessimistic way, if they are, extinguishing your hopes and your dreams, they have just as much of a negative impact on your business as the people on the inside team do. So I literally realized that I've got to cut out all the crabs on my outside team. And after that vacation, I went home and I spent the next year literally building a distance between all my friends who are negative and don't believe in my dream, aren't on the same path as me. And then the family members, and I've been very honest with you about this, you and I are like brothers, and I'm not going to mention any names, but family members who are, I can't cut out because they're family, they're blood. Yeah. I've learned to edit the relationship with them. So I don't talk about my hopes and dreams with them. I spend less time with them. And I talk about very superficial stuff. How's the weather? What about the ball game? How are the fruits growing in the backyard? Whatever it is. But we no longer talk about my live event. I'll give you one example. I would have a live event where I bring 1,000 people in and give away a Land Rover and over a 3-day period. And of course, a family member would say, well, what if you can't sell all the tickets? What if you can't afford the cost of the Land Rover? And that's the last thing you want to hear when you just put $500,000 out to fill up an event, right? And so I realized you either have to edit relationships, or if they're not relationships that are really blood related, you must cut out those relationships. And that's what entrepreneurs do. We are extreme. If we don't do the extreme things, we'll never have the extraordinary life that we want.
The entrepreneurs that are listening, and Bedros, if you can't even, for folks listening, you can't even hire Bedros right now because you've got so many. I can't get a hold of you, and I love you, man.
Yes, you can. Yeah.
But so to facilitate the platform for growth of entrepreneurs to the next level, you and Craig started the Empire Mastermind. It's not.
Yes, sir.
It is for the highest. I'd say it's probably the highest level mastermind that exists that I know of. I've been a part of it. I've been fortunate to speak at it. And so if there's an entrepreneur right now that is thinking, hey, how can I be a part of this, an ecosystem where I have a platform, where I have someone like Bedros that can kind of give me, paint the picture, show me the tea leaves, help me get to the next level, along with a group of badasses, right? I mean, you're talking NFL athletes to Navy SEALs to just like billionaires in that room, who's the icons in that room. And so if I want to give you a shout out because very few people, Bedros, I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that struggle to find exactly this inside-outside team, struggle to find a way to get environmental exposure where they can upgrade their lives and psychologically upgrade their lives to the next level. And you've told me this, you don't need it all year long. For entrepreneurs like us, sometimes it's just a concentrated period of 2 days. Well, like 2 days with you is I'm good for a while, right? Like I like lunch with you, I'm good for a while, right? But 2 days with a great group is pretty amazing. So I'd love for just maybe 10 seconds as a teaser on if there is someone out there that would be a right fit for the Empire Mastermind, how should they think about it? How should they apply it? I just want to give them the entree into that.
Sure. Here's what the Empire Mastermind is entrepreneurs, especially entrepreneurs that are working at a high level and trying to get to a higher level. We're islands. You know, your friends are not at the same place that you are typically. We're islands. And there's no better place than to go to someone who's already been where you are or is miles ahead of where you are, because that group, like you said, has some really high achievers and they're from many different industries. And all of a sudden, I get to come into it, and I'm the fitness guy that owns a fitness franchise, but Sharran, who built and sold this multi-billion-dollar, real estate company, now I'm getting your outside eyes to look into my business. And that's you look at life through a different perspective than I do. And Craig looks at life through a different perspective than you and I do. So the benefit of the mastermind is to meet 3 times a year. Every 100 days we get together here at my office in my learning center. We bring in some of the best guest presenters. You were a guest presenter as well. Jesse Itzler, the guy that created Marquise Jet and Zico Coconut Water. He's married to Sarah Blakely of Spanx, the creator of Spanx. And Tom Bilyeu will be here at the next one. He's the guy that, $1 billion Quest bar company, right? And so when you have some badasses like that and some legendary people who are going to give you outside eyes and take a look at the problem in your business, and then, or the hidden opportunity, and go, have you considered doing this? And I call it time collapsing. In that 12-month period, we give you 3 to 5 years of results because we find shortcuts, because we have experts looking with their outside eyes. We meet every 100 days for 2 days at a time. And man, is it a magical transformational time. And it's a recharging thing too, because all of a sudden you're amongst birds of a feather.
Yeah. Well, so if someone's listening and I'll actually take this on personally. If someone's listening, there's an application process. So go through me and I'll get you plugged into the right resource on Bedros' team. Bedros, I have one question for you. I think this will sum everything up. You've run so many masterminds, and I know you do these hot seat days. You do these hot seat days where people come at you with every problem that they have, right? Like they've been waiting for like weeks to ask you this question because they know that you can magically solve this question. And I don't know, you probably have hundreds of thousands of people thrown these questions at you. And I would wager that one of the questions that you get asked over and over and over again, which you laugh at sometimes, is, hey, tell me the secret, right?
Yeah.
And you have the saying, the only secret is blank, right? Like, I love that. I want you to talk about the only secret is blank and kind of explain that.
Yeah, well, the blank is the only secret is there is no effing secret, right? There is no secret. It's hard work. It's sets and reps over time. Like, you and I can go hire, oh gosh, I don't know, Phil Heath. So Phil Heath right now is like the 6 or 7 time Mr. Olympia. Like, he is the biggest, most muscular bodybuilder on the planet. We can go hire him for 1 day, Sharran, and work out with him at his intensity. Even, let's say we can magically muster up to move the same weight that he does for that 1 day. We are not going to build the same amount of muscles because he has done the sets and reps over an extended period of time. And so the secret to success that everybody wants, it's not one Instagram post. It's not the one Facebook ad. It's not the one SKU of product or service or the one app you're going to launch. It is sets and reps over time and doing the work even when you don't feel like it, even when it's a suck factor, even when it's the weekend, and even when your friends are at the ball game. And if you're willing to make that sacrifice, do the hard work for low pay for a period of time, then all of a sudden you'll do the easy work for a lot of pay in the future. But very few people are willing to make that sacrifice. They just think that there's a magical secret that we haven't told them yet.
So you've taken all these interviews, thousands of questions being thrown at you, I don't know, like thousands of Instagram questions, comments. I mean, you've been coaching on Instagram now. Like, I think you and I helped this guy like build a business on Instagram, which is,
yes,
which is pretty amazing. And you put everything into this advanced copy that you sent me of this book, ManUp. My children love it because this is what my son has this on his nightstand because he's like, hey, I need to have Mr. Keuilian's book on my nightstand. It's coming out soon. I would love for you to just kind of tell me, not what's in it, but more why. Why did you write this? And like, just why?
Well, I would be doing your audience a disservice if I didn't share what's in it. So I'll gladly share that there are the 6 pillars of entrepreneurial leadership. And ironically, as I was going through and learning these 6 pillars of entrepreneurial leadership, I realized these are the 6 pillars of peak performance in life. So these 6 pillars will not only help you kick ass in business, but also in life, which is why it's part of the title, right? how to cut the BS and kick ass in business and in life. Because most of us sell ourselves on the BS. I'm a foreigner. I don't have enough money. I'm blue collar. I don't understand. And it's someone else's fault. And the economy's bad. And the people and the whatever. So as soon as we cut the BS, and everyone asks me, well, why did you title it Man Up? Well, because it's human up. I believe that we are top of the food chain on this planet. That means we have to have higher standards, higher expectations of ourselves, and we have much higher potential. So let's human up. Let's man up to our highest potential by cutting the excuses, taking control, and reaching for the potential. Well, for us to do that, we have to be able to take these 6 pillars that starts. Pillar number 1 is self-discipline, and pillar number 6 is building a high-performance team. I'm not going to tell you what the other 4 pillars are. You're going to have to read the book to find out and exactly go through the process of developing these skill sets. But when you do, I promise you, you will go from a failing business like I did, and I'm hoping that no one watching this has a failing business, but I was losing more franchisees in 2012 and 2013 than we were gaining each month. Right? I was losing more franchises than we were gaining. My wife was questioning my sanity and why I kept dumping our personal income into our business. It wasn't until 2014 that I said these 5 words to myself: it's time to man up. And I finally decided to have a very difficult conversation with my business partner at the time, with Fit Body Bootcamp, and part ways. He's not a bad person. I was a bad leader, and I created a toxic relationship because neither one of us were willing to have the talk. And I'm not going to blame him, because I should have had the talk when he wasn't willing to. Instead, I was passive aggressive and adversarial. And so it's time to man up at a time. I embraced these 6 pillars of leadership. It took me about 3 years to learn, and then another 3 years to install into my life and my business, because I had to figure them out and then see how I'm going to apply them. And so now I put them in this book, Man Up, so that anyone who wants to read it and install those literally within a weekend into their head, into their psyche, into their heart. Now, I'm not saying that it's just a flick of a switch and you're going to be an effective leader and have peak performance in every aspect of your life, because you're going to feel a lot of growing pain. You're going to know now, if I want to be a fighter jet, I got to have that conversation, because a crop duster would avoid that conversation.
Right.
If I want to be a fighter jet, I got to not hit the snooze button. A crop duster will hit the snooze button, right? And so that's the reason I wrote this book, because I don't want anybody else to suffer like I did, because now we've turned the company into Inc. 500, Inc. Entrepreneur 500, 15 fastest growing franchises, 714 locations worldwide and growing, blah, blah, blah. But none of that matters. What matters most is that I'm contributing to Shriners, Toys for Tots, Compassion International. Dude, we've got 97 kids adopted through Compassion International that my kids write to every month, right? Like, my goal is to have 1,000 of those kids adopted in Guatemala and the nearby countries. So that's really my big purpose, is to give the people who are going to read this the advantage that I didn't have to become more effective, peak performing leaders, both in business and in life. And
Bedros, you've taken it a step further. You're going to give a special gift for our audience as well. You said, so if someone goes ahead and buys this book, you can go wherever books are sold, pre-order it on Amazon, or go to manup.com. But there is a special course that is over $1,000 course that you're handing out as well. I'd love for you to just do a quick blurb on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So if I were to write this book the way I wanted to write it, it would be about 8 books. It would be a big volume, right? And obviously the publisher didn't want that. So I decided that what I was going to do is create a high-performance leadership training day at my office here, where I take all 6 pillars and I go into great detail on how entrepreneurs can use it in their business and in their life. And so we recorded that. I charged $1,000 a head for my students to come in for the day. We had 28 students come in, and we recorded the whole thing. So I've got the high-performance leadership course that I'm going to make into a $1,200 product in December. But right now, when anyone listening to this goes to Amazon or their favorite bookstore or manup.com to buy the book, you just forward your receipt to orders@manup.com, and I will give you the entire high-performance leadership course absolutely free as my gift. So you're really getting a $1,200 course on high performance and leadership for the price of a book that you're going to want to read anyway. And it's a very well-written book, I must say, and it's been very entertaining by and I say this because some amazing people have read it already.
Yeah.
That, from Frank Kern to Craig Ballantyne to yourself, and the feedback I've gotten was just through the roof. So I can say with confidence that the book itself is a game changer. And when you send that receipt to orders@manup.com, we will send you my entire course on high performance leadership.
So I'll make sure that all this information is in the show notes. But one last question for you.
Yes, sir.
every time you meet an entrepreneur, every time you meet a high achiever, you have this gift. You have this gift of being able to, like, you've told me this, but not in so many words. You have this gift of being able to see it in their eyes. Like, you know right away that there is a tiger in there. You know right away that you can, if you unlock some potential, that person could really man up, really human up, really do great things. If there is someone like that listening, watching right now, what is that one piece of advice you would impart to unlock that potential in that person?
Yes. I'm so glad you asked that question. And that person, the way you'll know if you're that person is if you have this sense like you were meant for more. If you have this as our friend Ed Milet calls it, a blissful dissatisfaction, right? You're happy, but you're dissatisfied with where you are. Like, dude, I'm living a great life. You have privy to my life. I'm very grateful for it, but I am dissatisfied with it because I know what my purpose and potential is, right? And so if you feel that hunger, you feel that drive, you feel like you're almost unreasonable in your desire to succeed, you're that person. That's the eye of the tiger. And to your question, which, by the way, your question was what? I got so excited I kind of lost track.
There is that person listening right now. There is that person.
What is the one thing, right? Yeah. So the one thing that person needs to do is they need to understand that it's okay to take control. It's okay to be unreasonable. It's okay to live in extremes. I wish someone would have told me those three things, that it's okay to be a control freak. Like, dude, I've got 200 people blocked on my cell phone. Like, they can't text me, they can't call me because they would send me text messages this big in the middle of the night, and I don't want that. So I control who calls me, the people that I hang around with. I hang out with you. I hang out with Craig, with Joel Marion. There's like a handful of people because I know what I'm getting. You're proven, you're tested, you're from the trenches. And so one, be a control freak. Two, have unreasonable expectations and desires. And three, like, go for it. It's okay. I wish someone would have told me that, because if they told me that being unreasonable and being a control freak and being an extremist, meaning there's been times I've sat down for 16 hours and just had coffee, water, and was typing out a copy. It ended up being 17,463 words. And that sales copy ended up filling up one of my live events when I wasn't the big name or the bigger name that I am now. And it's because I knew I had that copy in me and I had to be extreme and lock out my family and do that for 16 and a half hours. And so that's the advice I would pass along to this person who's got that eye of the tiger and the claws and fangs wanting to come out. And I hope that they're willing to be brave enough to, even in the face of their family, who's going to call them weird and strange, and that's not normal, it's not balanced, to do it anyways.
Yeah. So for just to wrap this up, there is amazing set of resources here for the high achiever, the entrepreneur who wants to take their business to the next level. Check out Empire Mastermind. Contact me personally, and I'll help you through the application process. ManUp.com. Go get your book. And get the receipt forwarded to get Bedros' course. Follow Bedros because, Bedros, there's like, I sit down and I'm watching your stuff, and I could watch your stuff for freaking ever because it's so good. And you, like, the content is so great and it inspires me and it feels like I'm with you, which I love. So thank you for being you. Thank you for being the American Edge. Thank you for being the American Dream. Thank you for working your face off to put it all this. And more importantly, thank you for being a friend and a mentor to me and my family. I really appreciate that.
Sharran, buddy, I'm telling you, man, you are cut from a different cloth, and I am so grateful to have you in my life and as a friend and a mentor. So thank you for this opportunity, and I hope that I can